What is going on YouTube? This is Acid Root. So I'm going to review the debut album by Birdman. Basically, this product is called I Need a Bag of Dope, and it came out somewhere in 1993. So the thing about this particular product is this is actually not by Birdman as much as his original pseudonym, which is B-32 as far as those pitches can happen. But this is one of the initial products of the formation of the Cash Money label that hosted, folks like Juvenile, Lil Wayne, BG, Turk, some of these type folks is what I'd say big timers. But I look after. I'm not sure. I want to say Manny Fresh was affiliated with this product as well. He has. Yeah, he actually does have a couple of beats on here. But the thing about this particular product is it was only released on cassette. It's not as commonly talked about, and I don't know like the full public display that Birdman really pushes forth for it nowadays. I'd say it's just kind of a more rare item. Apparently, it's a particularly expensive product. I saw in some of the comments on a few of these songs on YouTube that this tape might be sold for like 5,000, 6,000 bucks, something like that. I'd say it may not be full blown. It could be within that relative sense that it's particularly a hot item to kind of get. So I look after it's a good concept within this particular product, but I'd have to say pretty solid album here. I'd have to suppose. I mean, I definitely think Birdman should go back and put this on like CD or something like that. It'd be a pretty excellent pitch to kind of get here because this is some quality stuff. Just look after the concept. Now it's a little bit haphazard within the sense. I mean, it's definitely some good music, but it is retro to like 1993, more of like the turntable era, golden age of hip hop, some of those type pitches. Considering it's just interesting that Birdman being like a flagship, one of the flagship Southern rap cats of like the 2000s, as far as those pitches kind of happened, to seeing what he did with like early 90s type fare back in like the days when Eazy-E and Biggie and Tupac were alive, some of those type folks. It's an interesting type pitch to kind of get some of that. This would have to say as far as that particular kind of goes, but I look after it. The main concept about this product is, I mean, this is a pretty strung out type project. I'm just going to go ahead and say, like, the lyrics on here don't really have much public relations factor, which is kind of the concept. It just basically blatantly glorifies like the concept of like with the album title being called I Need a Bag of Dope. I just don't know how well this would have translated to like a normal kind of record label, like just some of the standard record labels as far as those pitches kind of happen. I would look after it. It glorifies like the concept of just heroin use and just pitches like that, some of those type concepts to some of the topics on here. It's definitely like a pretty overall low-key and gutter type project that had to say just within the concept. I like the single, which I think is the title track, I Need a Bag of Dope, just talk about the concept selling, harder drugs, pitches like that, and using them in some senses just within the tone behind it. There's actually a couple songs on here that have that relative type pitch. At least the songs I Had to Rob a Nigga and I Need a Bag of Dope both deal with the concepts of just trying to rob folks to get money for harder drugs as far as those pitches gonna happen. It's just a differential type pitch. Birdman was in a different place back in like the early 90s as far as those pitches gonna happen. I mean, it's known that he was kind of a hustle mentality back in those days. I mean, he fleshed out by the time he got to 2002 and like the late 90s when he was doing big timers, but it's just a more raw and rugged type format that this is really within the trenches of just being able to say it's just a little bit more seedier this time, just within the pitch behind it. And this is kind of, I mean, most rappers when they talk about drug sales are more talking about like cocaine or something like that, crack or cocaine, some of those type ones, just within the pitch more so than like the full blown like dope and like the variations of what that would stand for as far as those pitches kind of happen, just the rougher type ones. But it's just kind of within the concept. I think that might have had to do with why this album is just not more readily available, but there's just not a ton of information about it. It is some quality music on here, but just the public relations factor is just a lot different, just kind of within the pitch behind it. You just have to look after it, but look after. So it's just a pretty raw type album. Reminds me of the stuff that Master P was kind of doing in like the early 90s. He had an album called The Ice Cream Man, which is another type phrase for like that sort of pitch as far as that particular kind of goes along with it. But I look after it. So it's just not like if you know Birdman from like What Happened to That Boy and like Five Star Stun and some of those type ones, Pop Bottles, some of those type pitches. This is just a differential type taste of Birdman here, just back when he was young and thugging, back when he was Lil Wayne's age back in the 2000s, some of that type fair just within the pitch behind. But this is pretty solitary type product. Like out of the 4 songs on here, I recommend all 4 of the songs in some fashion, but this album is not going to get a 10 out of 10. I'd have to say it's just kind of within the pitch, just because I mean the aspect behind it is solid enough within the pitch behind it, but it's just kind of the aspect of being able to say that this is more. For one thing, the availability of it's pretty tricky to find. And then on top of that, it's just kind of like it just has like a steeper learning curve in terms of like it's just kind of more if you're not within the mentality of like it's just the lyrics it's a great, it has good vibes about this particular product, but the lyrics are a little bit different. It's not the composition of this nightclub bound, flossing out Lamborghinis, pitches like that, just within the tone as much as it is just the concept of just active in the field of just dope and pitches like that as far as that kind of goes. It's just not, at least when you think of Snoop Dogg with Doggy Style, as far as those pitches kind of happen, he would have songs like Gin and Juice and some of these type ones. So it's just kind of with the tone, it's just a little bit more kind of just, better within the pitch. But I look after it. So yeah, just to be able to say, look after it. Still seemed like it was a pretty big deal in the 90s. I noticed that the title track, I Need a Bag of Dope, has over 220,000 plays on YouTube as far as those pitches kind of happen. So it's a good pitch behind that. But basically, yeah, there's 8 songs on this particular mixtape. And there's 8 songs on this particular mixtape, but there's like 2 interludes on here and 2 beats that I don't recommend, but I'm not going to slash the score for those just because I prefer that because I'm here for the songs. I mean, it probably would have bolstered the score if those beats had been better, but it's just kind of within the pitch behind it. They're just kind of more samples of like the Candy beat. That was also Will Smith's song as far as those pitches going to happen. Candy in particular. Don't remember where the original song came from, but just kind of within the pitch behind it. And then there's also like another one towards the end that just was not as compelling, I'd have to say, but I had to say. So out of 4 songs in this particular album, I recommend like 3.5. So it's kind of the pitch for the most part. Damn near every song I would have to say just within the tone behind it, but it's just kind of the concept that it just has a more raw and roughneck type tone just within the pitch behind it, as far as like the aspects of how kind of more now there's just less public relations about this factor. So it's this kind of thing. But I Need a Bag of Dope's a nice one. It's like a jittery kind of city hop and basic on a sunny day commute, I'd have to say. Good song to smoke a sweet to, and like the sunshine, I'd feel like, and this is just like a vanilla type bop to kind of get here. So it's just some basic type fare. Just reminds me of something Master P or Tupac would kind of do. Just summer of 1993, some pitches like that. I'd say it's just a basic city hop type one. This feels like vintage California city streets or Las Vegas city streets, something like that, just within the relative tone. New Orleans, Louisiana city streets, as far as that particular one goes. Just a basic city hop one to kind of get here, standard antics, but like I said, within the lyrics, it just is the concept of just finding dope, smoking it, whatever. It's kind of within the antics of just finding dope, selling dope, smoking it, some of those type pitches just within the tone. They're not talking about weed here as far as those pitches kind of happens. It's kind of within the tone, but I look after it, just within the aspect. Is just some solid enough city hop just to be able to get within that pitch. But just standard type fare just has good aspects about it. Stanko's the next one. It's a real nice one. Stanko is a pretty nice one. This says Early Traces of Back That Ass Up by Juvenile. I'd say it's just a decent little club bop here. Good modest club bounce to kind of get about this one. This would be like a 90s variation of like a twerk song, I'd say about it. Just something circa 1993, 94, and it's like some southern bounce of a hit to kind of get here. So it's just an early traces of just some of those type ones. Some that Lil Wayne, Juvenile, BG, Turk would have done back in those days, just within that relative type sense. It's real nice bopper to kind of get here. Has the most bounce about this particular one. This is the most social of the songs on here, but still, just within the concept of whether, just the concept of plocking down. I mean, I haven't checked on eBay to see how much really this full blown project really is, but I just would have to say if it is truly like $5,000, something like that, it's just within the concept of just being able to say this is the most immediate moment on here amongst that money that you're going to spend for it. I'd say, but it's just a good enough concept to kind of get it. But I mean, like I said, it's just a more kind of rough around the edges and just kind of more rough draft type version of something like Back That Ass Up by Juvenile from or from 1998, 1999, just without the the overall more polished glitz that particular song. But it is a nice club bounce to kind of get. I Had to Rob a Nigga is a pretty nice one. It's like a murky and kind of goopy outing sludge of a song. I had to feel like just a little bit more late day compared to I Need a Bag of Dope. It's like a good late day slag to kind of get here, and it's like some relative makeshift in like a more gutter sense. The concept behind the lyrics on this song, not really as much makeshift. It's not really as much makeshift in terms of getting ready to go rob folks as far as those particular pitches kind of happen, but it just has like the relative tone behind it, just having like some good type fare, just like some standard day outings. Just within the pitch behind it, I just look after just within the tone. A lot of this music works pretty well as like some standard city bounce. Just a lot of this music works pretty well as like some good day commerce and pitches like that, just for like standard day air and some of that type fare. Just going and picking up some Taco Bell, some of that typeness, just to be able to get some gas station type goodies, some of that type fare, Chex Mix, burritos, pizza, some of that type stuff, just to be able to get just within the tone behind it. Just standard type I mean, it's just kind of like, it's just the more like it takes some of that balance of like Big Timers. I don't remember as much like Big Timers from 98 and 2000, some of those type pitches, but it just has like a more, it just definitely reminds me like Master P with a little bit of Tupac from like 93, not so much 96 or 97. not so much 95, 96 Tupac, but like Tupac from like his Tupacalypse nowadays and strictly from my niggas days with like a little bit of like a little bit of Cypress Hill from 91 and Master P from like the early 90s, some of those type folks just in particular. Just has the good aspect behind it. I think Birdman kind of was a pioneer for Southern hip hop around this time. I mean, this is a low key type product, but I do like the direction that this project was trying to go in. Just the traces of these songs had the aspects of being like a very quality project here. It's just kind of within the concept of the public relations. It's just the fact that the public relations factor was out the window as far as those pictures kind of happened, but still good enough, I'd have to say. Then Irie Irie, this is kind of the almost song here, but I do recommend it enough to be able to say within a relative sense. I mean, it's a lackadaisical kind of meme song. I feel like something that Master P would kind of do with his type things that he does, some of those type pitches. It's kind of one of those type ones to get some dap pitches like that, smoke a few stogies, get some Subway, some pitches like that, and just hang out, watch football, baseball, basketball, some of those type tones. Just be able to say standard kickback, have some PlayStation type music, standard dap. Just some good day outing sludge. I'd have to feel like about this one. It's like a standard but somewhat grating kind of gimmick, though, I'd have to say about it. So it's just kind of the concept that I mean, the thing about this song, this kind of it's like if you know the song "Oh Yeah" by Big Timers, where they keep saying "Oh yeah" just after every 3 or 5 or so seconds. That's what they say on this particular song. They just keep saying "Irie Irie," and it just reminds me of like a more localized. This Irie Irie just reminds me of like a more localized type neighborhood type gem to kind of get just within the tone. It's just not so much of like true club knocks and pitches like that. Not to say that it wouldn't be, but it's just kind of more within the tone, just neighborhood dap, just with you and your, just kind of one for more you and your boys pitches like that. Just smoke several sweets, just more localized type fare, just neighborhood romps and just overall standard routine kind of activity just within the lackadaisical type sense. It's a little bit more, just a little bit more to kind of keep saying routine, I'd have to say. So that's just kind of the pitch behind it. But it's just basically an almost song because it can get grating just within the pitch. I mean, I look after it, it's just like, I mean, this is another good day commerce type one. I feel like I need a bag of dope. It's a little bit more sunny, just noon, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock p.m. I had Robin Niggas a little bit more 4:30, 3:45, 5:15 sludge as far as those pitches kind of happen. Stenko's just a good club bounce to kind of get, and Irie Irie is just kind of more and Irie Irie is just more typical kind of 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock p.m. sunshine gaze, just like I need a bag of dope, I'd say, just within the pitch behind it. But that's the concept, but it's still an almost song just within the pitch because it can be grading. It says a little bit more of a learning curve. I can see the chorus getting on some folks' nerve just within the pitch. I just would have supposed a little bit more of like a little bit more hardcore within a sense, but I look after it, just depends. But yeah, I just would have to say, so in terms of like the score I'm going to give this particular EP, me recommending at least 3.5 songs out of 8 on here. I'm going to give this EP or this album, this cassette album, like an 8.25 out of 10. I mean, it's good stuff on here. This is kind of the aspect. This has the steep learning curve. Just the aspects, a little bit abrasive, just within the pitch behind it. Like I said, the public relations factor is just kind of out the window, just within the pitch behind it. But it's just within that sense of just more raw, traditional type of just the format just behind just like a more aspect of this like uncut type gather as far as that particular pitch kind of happens. And I do like that aspect just because I realize that when you get like more kind of commercial friendly type stuff where it's watered down and even saying words like horny or like just saying like horny or spaz or something like that, some of those type ones that would just be censored out just within the pitch. Just kind of the concept. I would have to say I prefer music more in this particular format, but it's just kind of the concept, just realizing that is standard. It's not cocaine sales just within the pitch behind it. It's just kind of the pitch behind it. It's just not cocaine sales just within the pitch behind it. So I just look after just more within that trace. This has less public relations, but I look after it. The social score I'll go ahead and give. That's kind of tricky. I think I'll give the social score like a 7.25 because I look after it. Has some good traces on here, but the availability of this product is relatively minimal. I think it probably could have had like a few more songs. I just would have to say the overall concept. I just look after I mean, it has like the affability. It's very sunshiny type product. This real summer type bounce just within the pitch. Just great sunshiny type days within the aspect as long as you're not paying attention to the lyrics. But just look after the tone behind it. It really doesn't have as much kind of more balmy kind of friendliness or just overall pep towards it just within the aspect. I mean, apart from Irie Irie, which is kind of a relatively grating meme song for the most part, this particular product is just not that affable within something more recreational, just for something that you're not going to just be in kind of more street soldier type mode, I'd have to say, just within the pitch. But just I look after still relative within that. Just I mean, it's kind of like some of those type pitches. Just it's just kind of the tone. But in terms of the future, like Birdman has not dropped a product since 2021, I'd have to say, which I reviewed that recently. It's a project that he did with NBA YoungBoy. It's a good pitch to kind of get towards that, but it has some relative type of appeal about it. I'd have to say it's just kind of within the concept. Just I don't know if it's worth like 6 grand as far as those pitches going to happen. I would like for this product to be available on CD, but it does have some gems on here just within the aspect if you can find it for like a good price, it is worth the taste behind it. Just some real sunshiny type summer bounds that has some city hop about it. That is some mostly relative fun.